Did you know that more than 4,000 years ago, God promised this land to Abraham's heirs? Today, it's a battleground. Rockets fly, blood spills. Israel stands firm. Hamas fights back. How did it come to this? And what does prophecy say happens next? Welcome to the Bible Questions Hub. Step into a journey where ancient scriptures meet modern curiosity. Grab a seat, bring your questions, and let's discover the truth together. Let's get started. The story of Israel and Hamas is one that spans millennia, weaving together ancient promises, historical upheavals, and modern-day tensions. It's a tale rooted in faith, land, and identity, with threads that stretch from the pages of the Bible to the headlines of today. Let's explore this complex relationship, starting with the divine promise of a land to the Jewish people, tracing the rise of Hamas, examining the current situation, and peering into what prophecy might suggest about the future. The biblical origins, a land promised. The foundation of Israel's claim to the land begins in the Bible, around 4,000 years ago, with a man named Abraham. In Genesis 12, God calls Abraham out of Ur, modern-day Iraq, and promises him a land for his descendants, a land later identified as Canaan, roughly encompassing modern Israel, parts of Jordan, Lebanon, and the Palestinian territories. Genesis 15 verses 18 to 21 details this covenant, specifying borders from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates. This promise is reaffirmed to Abraham's son Isaac and grandson Jacob, whose name becomes Israel, the father of the 12 tribes. Fast forward to around 1200 BCE, when Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt in the Exodus. After 40 years in the wilderness, Joshua conquers Canaan, fulfilling God's promise as described in the book of Joshua. The land becomes the heart of Jewish identity, with Jerusalem as its spiritual center after King David establishes it as his capital around 1000 BCE. Despite periods of exile, most notably the Babylonian captivity in 586 BCE and the Roman dispersion in 70 CE, the Jewish people maintain a continuous connection to this land through faith, prayer, and an enduring hope of return. But who else was there? The Bible mentions various peoples in Canaan: Philistines, Amorites, Jebusites, and others, none of whom are direct ancestors of modern Palestinians or Hamas. These groups either assimilated, disappeared, or displaced over time. The modern Palestinian people emerged later, shaped by centuries of Arab conquests, Islamic expansion, and Ottoman rule, blending indigenous roots with broader Middle Eastern influences. The rise of Hamas, a modern occupier. Hamas, as we know it today, is a relatively recent player in this ancient drama. Its story begins in the 20th century, but the roots of the conflict it embodies stretching back further. After the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 BCE, Jews were scattered across the globe, though small communities remained in the land. Over centuries, the region saw waves of rulers: Byzantines, Arab Muslims, starting in the 7th century, Crusaders, Mamluks, and Ottomans. By the 19th century, under Ottoman control, the population was predominantly Arab Muslim, with Jewish and Christian minorities. The modern Zionist movement, sparked in the late 1800s, sought to re-establish a Jewish homeland in response to rising anti-Semitism. This gained traction after World War I, when Britain took control of Palestine and issued the Balfour Declaration in 1917, supporting a national home for the Jewish people. Jewish immigration surged, clashing with Arab residents who feared displacement. After World War II and the Holocaust, the United Nations partitioned Palestine in 1947, creating Israel and an Arab state. The Arab rejection of this plan led to the 1948 war, Israel's establishment, and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, what they call the Nakba, or catastrophe. Enter Hamas. Founded in 1987 during the First Intifada, uprising against Israeli occupation. Hamas, short for Harakat al-Muqawama, al-Islamiyah, or Islamic Resistance Movement, emerged as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, an Egyptian Islamist group active in Gaza since the 1950s. Its founders, like Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, sought to resist Israeli control through both social services and armed struggle. Hamas gained power in Gaza after winning elections in 2006 and ousting its rival, Fatah, in 2007, establishing a de facto government, whose descendants are Hamas. Ethnically, its members are mostly Palestinians, whose ancestry blends Arab conquerors from the 7th century with earlier inhabitants of the region. They aren't direct descendants of biblical peoples like the Philistines, despite the linguistic similarity with Palestine, derived from the Roman Palestina. Instead, their identity is tied to the broader Arab and Muslim world, with ideological support from Iran, a Persian, not Arab, nation that backs Hamas to counter Israel. The Bible leaves us clues and the answers that might surprise you. Stick with us at the Bible Questions Hub as we unravel the next twist in this ancient mystery. Where did these threads of history lead, and what secrets are still buried in the sands of time? Keep tuning in for the full revelation. The current situation, a fragile ceasefire. As of February 24th, 2025, the Israel-Hamas relationship is at a tense crossroads. The latest chapter began with Hamas's devastating attack on October 7th, 2023, killing about 1,200 Israelis and taking over 250 hostages. Israel's retaliatory campaign in Gaza has been relentless, with casualty figures from Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry exceeding 46,700, mostly civilians, including many women and children. The war displaced nearly the entire population of Gaza, over 2 million people, and left the enclave in ruins. A ceasefire, brokered in January 2025 by Qatar and the U.S., halted the fighting after 15 months. It includes a phased release of hostages and Palestinian prisoners, with Israel withdrawing some forces from Gaza. Yet mistrust looms large. Israel insists on neutralizing Hamas's military capacity, while Hamas demands a full Israeli withdrawal and an end to the blockade imposed since 2007 by Israel and Egypt. Reconstruction efforts are underway, overseen by Egypt, Qatar, and the UN, but Gaza's future governance remains unclear. Will the Palestinian Authority return, or will Hamas cling to power? Meanwhile, sporadic violence persists, with Israel targeting Hamas operatives and Hamas threatening to resume attacks if its demands falter. Future prophecy, what lies ahead? For those who turn to the Bible for insight, the Israel-Hamas conflict resonates with end-times prophecy. Ezekiel 37 speaks of Israel's regathering, a fulfilled promise many tie to 1948, followed by an attack from a northern coalition in Ezekiel 38, often interpreted as including Russia, Magog, and Iran, Persia, Hamas's key backer. Psalm 83 describes a confederacy of nations intent on wiping out Israel, with some linking modern Palestinians to ancient foes like Edom or Ishmaelites, though this is speculative. Zechariah 12 verses 2-3 portrays Jerusalem as a cup of trembling and a burdensome stone for all nations, suggesting escalating conflict. Revelation's apocalyptic visions amplify this, with wars paving the way for Christ's return. Yet Isaiah 60 verse 18 offers hope. Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, hinting at a future where Hamas, the Hebrew word for violence, coincidentally matching the group's name, is eradicated and peace reigns under a divine kingdom. Does this mean the current war is the final battle? Not necessarily. Prophecy is often broad, and scholars debate its timing. Hamas may fade, only for another adversary to rise, as hatred rooted in Abraham's family feud, Isaac versus Ishmael, persists. Still, the Bible envisions a day when swords are beaten into plowshares, Isaiah 2 verse 4, a promise that believers cling to amid today's chaos. An unfinished story, from God's promise to Abraham to Hamas's rockets over Gaza. The relationship between Israel and Hamas is a saga of faith, struggle, and survival. Hamas occupies Gaza, not as ancient heirs, but as modern resistors, born from decades of conflict and ideology. Today's ceasefire teeters on the edge, with both sides eyeing the other warily. Prophecy whispers of turmoil before peace, but the when and how remain shrouded. For now, this ancient land continues to witness an unfinished story, one where history, politics, and faith collide in a way that captivates the world. Thank you for watching the Bible Questions Hub. We're so glad you joined us on this journey through scripture and history. Stay curious, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next adventure